whether you can get reinfected with coronavirus really hinges on whether you have long-term immunity and whether after you've recovered, your body is still going to recognise the virus when it encounters it again. The coronavirus is a respiratory infection. It enters our body through the throat and we breathe it in. And then from there, it will start attacking cells in the upper respiratory system. And as soon as that happens, our body's immune system will be alerted to the fact we've been infected with a virus, and it will send inflammatory cells that are designed to attack the virus and fight it off. But then it needs to build up a whole army of these cells that can specifically spot the coronavirus. And because this is a new infection for us, it takes a while for the body to build up a big enough supply of these to fight off the virus. There have been some anecdotal reports of people who appear to have been reinfected, but I think at this stage we shouldn't give those reports too much weight because these infections, these tests have all happened quite close together in time, and it's very possible that the middle test was a false negative. So I think the jury's really out at the moment on whether there is going to be long-term immunity. So for some diseases, chickenpox for example, your immune system keeps a memory of that illness, and whenever you're exposed to it again, your immune system will be ready to jump into action and fight it off, and you won't get infected, you won't have the symptoms again. But there are other conditions where that doesn't happen, or where you're immune for a certain period of time after infection and then that immunity wanes over time. And we don't know yet what's going to happen with COVID-19. We do know that with some of the coronaviruses that are already circulating within the human population, things that cause just seasonal coughs and colds, with those you are immune for a certain period afterwards, but then by the following year you might be able to be infected again. The symptoms that people are getting with this coronavirus are generally more serious than with the other milder coronaviruses. So it's possible that that will translate into a longer lasting immunity. That's what people are hoping will happen, but it's not something that's certain yet. It's possible that people who have the more severe version of COVID-19 and suffer most serious symptoms will have a stronger immune memory of the illness. And that's something that seems to have been seen with SARS. So that's another thing that people are looking at, whether everyone's going to have the same kind of long-lasting immunity or whether some people might be better at recognising the virus if they encounter it again in the future. There's also a question about how the virus itself is changing over time. So with flu, for example, that mutates very rapidly. Its genome shuffles around over the course of the year, and by the time the flu comes around the next year, it'll have changed enough that your immune system won't recognise it, even if you've been infected before. And that's why you don't get long-term immunity to flu, and it's also why you have to get vaccinated every year, because we don't have a universal vaccine that works for all flus. What we're seeing with COVID-19 is that it appears to be fairly stable genetically. It should mean that if our immune system builds up a reserve of these memory immune cells, they should be able to recognise the virus again. The question of whether people will have long-lasting immunity against COVID-19 is such a crucial one for figuring out how we're going to exit this crisis. There's a lot of reason to be hopeful. For a lot of diseases, once you've had it once, you are immune. And there's reason to think that the same thing will be true at least for months or possibly years with COVID-19.
零视频 APP 等你下载。